largest young conservative movement. I mean, this is why he had to go, right? Because he's letting other.
Well, that's why, I mean, he has actual power, because you can argue that Candace is really only a media figure, whereas Charlie Kirk was an operator and he was driving out the votes for young Republicans. So he had an actual stake in the apparatus.
And when you find out how it works, see, I didn't give him enough credit. I mocked him relentlessly.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any concept of what the Truman Show he lived in.
Yeah.
And so that guy and that's a young dude, man, who's got a lot of stuff weighing on him, who clearly was sincere, because as he's seeing information, he can't just disregard it like he's being told. And that's a test right there. That's one of the initiations to see if you're cool to get to the next level, is ignoring obvious, weird, wrong shit. Can you do that? Can you turn a blind eye to His Majesty's madness, like in that movie?
I mean, well, he came up. The thing is, he came up through this entire ecosystem. You know, he was a Zionist back from the very beginning. So they
I bet his wife's a handler for him, is what I bet. I bet.
Well,
Erica Kirk, who bizarrely ran a Romanian military base orphanage that also was a brothel. It's the most insane thing I've ever heard.
And it's actually, there's a lot of evidence. Some people say that that's a wild accusation, but it actually looks into it. There's a lot of evidence for that.
Hey, you know, John Benet Ramsey's dad was a Lockheed Martin man, right?
Well, I did not know that.
The Freemason, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
That tells you a lot more about it, don't it?
So that's what I'm saying is, so Charlie Kirk, he was not just like a culture warrior, you know, arguing with people on campus. He was literally operating this stuff. And when you basically come up through the mob and you decide, I don't want to be a part of the mob anymore, you really, I don't know, it's hard to survive that.
I've done it many times growing up in my thing, my religion I walked away from, and I don't give a fuck. I would do that anytime. But I've never been in that high of a, where I'm at the forefront of a mind war movement that's very important to the powers that be. Because everybody has to stay in their lane. If you watch Ben Shapiro, as you religiously, I watch him, and he'll be like, conspiracy used to be the left, but now the right's doing conspiracies because he's trying to herd the sheep back into their pens. Are you left or right wing? I saw a left winger kill Charlie Kirk, and I saw it. No, you didn't.
And this whole, I mean, this whole thing just tied back to the PFAS story. This whole thing is always just at the end of the day some kind of psyop to get you to believe in something, to vote for something, right? The RFK Jr., the whole thing is to get you on the Trump coalition, and then once you're in, then they gaslight you.
If you're arrogant like me, and I'm so arrogant and smug, and I think when they work for me, which you're supposed to think, but people don't think that. People are like, my manager fired me, but a manager works for you, you know? Like if you don't understand basic shit like that, they're going to jujitsu you on the opposite. Like, oh, are you not MAGA? Yo, MAGA don't exist unless I say it does, assholes. MAGA's supposed to be about the people that live here, not the leaders. And they're not leaders. You just said it. They're managers. They're fucking, you know, the Hulk Hogan's and Nikolai Volkov's for the.
No, these are just TV. And the whole Trump thing is like a made-for-TV thing. And there's just
since Reagan, it's been like that.
Yeah.
The first movie star that became the president, and of course, he was controlled by Dart. What do you think? People think he was like in charge. I bet his brain went screwy when he stopped doing what they wanted.
Well, I mean, a lot of people say that the last president who was actually running things was JFK, basically.
Not hard to believe, because he gave that speech about secret societies, and I view it as a condemnation of intel in general, which I do condemn. I don't think they should get to have any. I think they've lost their secret privileges. To me, I don't know why anyone accepts the idea they can keep secrets from you ever again after the foul shit that you know they've already done. The experiments they did on people. The poisons they did on you at home on purpose. They did on purpose to see what it would do to you. That's all shit you could look up. The wars anybody get their dick blown off fighting in Iraq, and now Al Qaeda ISIS guy is shaking hands with Trump.
I know. Imagine you're
on your dick stump watching that. It bothers me as if my dick had blown off. When I see it, I go, why would you believe in this country? When you witness that, I'm old enough. I saw 9/11. I remember the trauma-based mind control of invading Iraq. Okay, and Al Qaeda's got him, and Al Qaeda's bad, and there's ISIS. I guess no, they're not that bad because we're cool with them now. And Guantanamo, the prison with Al Qaeda people in it, they're still there. It's still open. Everybody forgot about it because there's a country full of fucking morons. How do you sit here and watch this over and over again and still go to a fucking hockey game or a baseball game or go vote or go, yeah. How do you still do that? Are you all
well,
just
what else can you
morons?
do, Carl? What else can you do other
Or
than
what I
just
do,
basically
run my
tune that
mouth
out?
like an
Yeah.
asshole, and I chew my pipe like this.
You just kind of give up. Anyways, I mean,
I didn't give up. I never believed in this shit. I'm from a doomsday cult, my friend.
What
Okay?
else
I
can
can't
you
believe
do?
you guys are alive still.
You beat
God was
people
supposed to
into
kill you.
submission, basically.
Just
and you
always tell
tie
the
up
truth. Be a snitch. Be a snitch. Be a snitch. Break your oaths of secrecy, whatever you have. Break the oath and be a snitch and tell everybody. The only way we get out of this is if you punks stop keeping secrets for people. The only way out is to yip, 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 run your mouth. So all the snitches that everybody don't like, what do you have, Stockholm Syndrome? I'm not in the mafia. I love the mafia. I love Sammy the Bull. Good for you, brother. Tell all the shit. Why is that allowed to exist? Everybody's got to stop being a punk.
Come see me on tour in Pottstown, Pennsylvania, Waikiki, Hawaii, and the Comedy Store in Los Angeles. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.
How do you look at those statistics and think to yourself, you know what? The people who are struggling right now, they're the problem.
What the right needs to actually say, and again, it's politically unpopular, but they do need to say is, listen, if you're failing in life, yes, we can get the obstacles out of your way, but kind of, it's a little your fault. It's a little your fault. You should actually pick your ass up and go out and do something useful. And this notion that you as a Gen Z male are facing these obstacles that no other human has faced for all of human history, like read a book for one. Like, seriously, like go talk to your grandfather. But there are people who will say, we shouldn't give aid to Ukraine and we shouldn't give aid to Israel and we shouldn't give aid to Egypt and we shouldn't give aid to Saudi Arabia. Fine. Okay, I think that's stupid. I think that's poorly thought out.
No aid to Americans in regard to U.S. taxpayer money, but aid to foreign countries, you got to do it, of course. Now, while Ben Shapiro makes the case that young and disaffected Americans should essentially stop whining and pick themselves up by the bootstraps, he also manages to argue in favor of U.S. military aid for Israel, and as you just heard from that clip, other foreign countries as well. And he makes these points hilariously in the context of the exact same panel discussion. So let's get into it because this is pretty incredible. So what prompted a bit of a crash out that you're about to witness really centered on the topic, of course, of Nick Fuentes, because of course. I mean, I feel like that's the only topic that's being discussed right now in these circles, at these conferences. And so what's behind Nick Fuentes' popularity? Why is this happening? Like, that's the real question that keeps coming up in the context of these conferences. And while I think there's a legitimate argument to be made about, young, disaffected men who feel left behind by both American culture and especially by the economy, looks like Ben Shapiro has a different argument. So look, there's no question that Nick Fuentes says both incredibly offensive, terrible things, but on top of that, he tends to speak to the frustrations that young American males are currently experiencing, and that needs to be addressed. But instead of addressing it, the name calling and ad hominem attacks happen. What also doesn't help is what you're about to see from Ben Shapiro.
The Andrew Tate thing is a great comp for what's happening with Fuentes. Fuentes is the political version of Andrew Tate. It's just to burn it all down. Right, we hate all of this. All the institutions have been thoroughly destroyed, and so now we just have to get rid of whatever superstructure remains. Just tear down the facade.
What about the 20-year-olds who are trying to find their way in this movement and in this country?
What young men really want to do is actually go build things. They actually want to go out and forge into the world and be useful and be productive. And this is why you'll hear complaints. Oh, I can't get married anymore. I can't buy a house. I mean, you can, but that's a thing that you're being told over and over. You can't get married. Why can't you get married? Right? I can't have, yes, you certainly can have kids. I can't buy a house. No, you actually can. You just have to move out of New York. I got so much crap for this last week. You just might have to move out of New York City and go check out Texas. One of the things that I would love to see the right do with young men is actually do a little bit more tough talk with them. I think that the right is actually weirdly feminizing young men by giving them a victimology to buy into. If you're failing in life, yes, we can get the obstacles out of your way, but kind of, it's a little your fault. It's a little your fault. You should actually pick your ass up and go out and do something useful. And this notion that you as a Gen Z male are facing these obstacles that no other human has faced for all of human history, like read a book for one. Like, seriously.
The reason why it's offensive to tell young Americans that if they can't afford the neighborhoods they grew up in and have roots in is because those roots include their family members, their friends. Getting priced out of the community that you grew up in is infuriating, especially when you have no solutions at all from the very people that are supposed to represent Americans in their best interests, and that's these politicians who are pretty much useless. And it's offensive when there aren't any solutions at all, period. I don't want to move to Texas, right? I want to stay here where my family is. And that's why you have more and more young Americans. I'm talking about, when I say young, I'm talking about the Americans in their late 20s, early 30s. They want to stay close to their families. They can't afford the housing, so they move in with their grandmas, okay? Or they move in with their parents. And it is incredibly frustrating to see how much more difficult it is for younger generations to just reach the typical milestones in life that previous generations were able to get to much earlier than younger generations are able to today. So that's not a solution. Essentially telling Americans in a rigged economic system where more and more wealth is getting concentrated at the very top, it is not a solution to tell them to shut up, buck up, and stop whining. And you can't, on one hand, chide Americans for their victim mentality while aiding and abetting the victim mentality that we hear incessantly from the government of Israel. We're gonna get to that in just a minute, but first, a little more of the crash out.
Judaism values the idea that you're supposed to forge forth into the world and you have moral duties that you're supposed to do every single day. These are things that you're required to do every single day, and that you're a loser if you don't. Really, you're a loser and you're making your life worse. Okay, we shouldn't be shy about this. I think that we're all too shy about this sort of stuff with young men, particularly. We say, oh, well, if you choose not to, that's why. If you should, no. Your life will be worse and you will be a loser if you don't do these things that are going to make your life better. If you listen to Nick Fuentes, you're likely to be a loser. He is a loser. He is a basement-dwelling, ridiculous loser who spends his days ranting on the internet to a bunch of other basement dwellers. Don't be one of those people.
You have to dismantle the actual substance of the arguments that Nick Fuentes is making. Calling him a loser and then addressing his audience as a group of losers is only going to make the very issue you care deeply about, Ben, a lot worse. How does he not see this? And this is the thing, Ben is doing okay financially, as we can all imagine. And sometimes what ends up happening when you're doing real well economically, financially, you become disconnected from the reality on the ground for the vast majority of Americans. So rather than telling these young men to go read a book because they're losers in their mom's basements, how about you step outside your studio and have conversations with real people and talk to them about what they're going through. And if you don't want to, that's okay. I mean, I can help you out because I have specific examples of specific Americans and what they've been going through. So keep in mind, our economy currently has a problem with inflation, rising unemployment, a housing shortage, severe housing shortage, private equity snatching up homes despite the fact that we have limited inventory of homes to buy, which is making the situation worse. And our government is sending foreign countries hundreds of billions of dollars as our people are suffering. So I don't watch Nick Fuentes, but I'm angry. How could I not be angry? How can you see what's happening on the ground in this country? Okay, people living in squalor on the streets. Close to 100,000 Americans dying of drug overdoses every year. How do you look at those statistics and think to yourself, you know what? The people who are struggling right now, they're the problem. And look, I get it. I get, there's definitely some people who love to wallow in self-pity, don't think they have any agency, and just think that things should be handed to them. But is that the real problem right now? No, that's not the real problem right now. It's not. When you have people who are coming into college because they think I need to get this college degree, otherwise I'm not gonna get hired anywhere, and they leave with hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt because, yeah, at this point, higher education has become quite a bit of a scam. How do you not speak out against that system? How do you think that it's okay for so many Americans to, I mean, like the average age of home ownership in this country is now 38. And the solution from the federal government so far has been, hey, maybe we consider legalizing 50-year mortgages. Okay, so you buy a house at 40 with a 50-year mortgage. I mean, do the math. Do the math. Let's give you some specific examples because the Financial Times just published a piece about the residents of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, hardly Los Angeles, California, hardly New York City. You know, it's the kind of place where Ben would like to think Americans struggling in these big cities can move to, you know, for affordability. But let's check in with the residents of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Let's see how they're doing. Anissa Camacho, a 26-year-old florist who can no longer afford rent, so she moved in with her grandparents. It feels like everything is just closing in around us, honestly. I work 2 jobs, my partner works 2 jobs, and it just feels like we are like scraping for crumbs here. So you have a dual income household in which both members of said household are working 2 jobs. And she needs to move in with her grandmother because they can't afford rent. Dimitri Nash, 32 years old. He works as a yard driver for a local warehouse, sometimes up to 72 hours a week. It's not optional. It's mandatory for me to work the hours that I work because of the rise in cost of living. He has cut back meals to save money. Quote, it shouldn't be that way, especially for food. I mean, you gotta eat, he said. So I'm sure it's his fault. Some way, somehow it's his fault. He doesn't realize that he has agency, that he can pick himself up by the bootstraps and maybe work, I don't know, 80 hours a week instead of 72. Mark Riddle, the executive director of a food pantry in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, stated, quote, we see a lot of people who have been evicted because they couldn't pay their rent, because they had a car accident and then couldn't pay their medical bills. I think that's the sort of homelessness that we'll start to see a lot more of. But I don't want to hear anything about their victimhood, says Ben Shapiro. Because all of his patience for victimhood apparently is reserved for a specific country, and we know what that country is. So let's hear what he has to say about struggling Americans who pay their taxes and then watch their tax revenue get sent abroad to a country committing atrocities in Gaza, in the West Bank, in Lebanon, in other Middle Eastern countries. Let's take a look.
The MOU, yeah, I think, again, it provides a convenient talking point for people who don't understand geopolitics in any significant way. The reality is that in many ways, the MOU is significantly better for the United States than it is for Israel. It allows the United States to yank Israel's chain on matters of security. It allows America to hamper Israel's military-industrial complex in fairly significant ways. And so I think there's actually a fairly solid case to be made that the MOU is more beneficial to the United States government than it is to the Israeli government. I think for both governments, it would be better if they negotiated toward the end of an MOU. And I think that the prime minister would like to do that actually at some point in the very, very near future.
Ben is a liar. The Israeli government has proposed that the United States sign a 20-year MOU. So MOU is basically the agreement for the US to funnel military aid to Israel, okay? They're usually a decade long. That was the last MOU that was agreed upon during the Obama administration. Netanyahu and the Israeli government sees the writing on the wall. They see how unpopular Israel is and how unpopular it is for the American people to send their resources to a country that's committing atrocities. And so in response to that, the Israeli government's like, oh, we better lock this in for 20 years instead of 10. So do not talk to me about how like, oh yeah, the current prime minister is totally like finding a way to wean off the, I can't use that word, so I'm just gonna move off of it. But wean themselves off of dependency of US taxpayer money. No, they're not. They're not. So I just don't understand how he thinks making these two conflicting points in the context of the same panel discussion is gonna work out well for him. Calling people who watch Nick Fuentes' show losers, you're not gonna win your argument by doing that. He knows that better than anyone, but he keeps doing it anyway. How is it that our resources are not well suited to use on our people, but it somehow makes sense to feed into the victim mentality of the Israeli government and funnel our resources over to them? Government handouts, totally okay when it comes to Israel, not okay when it comes to helping Americans at a time when our economy is falling apart. This is why you're losing, Ben. Wake up, read a book.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.
There's photos of Nancy Pelosi with JFK.
That was before Israel didn't kill him.
You think so?
I didn't say anything.
Yeah,
How much longer does Israel let us stay alive, do you think? That's the big question.
Why are they?
What did you say? Is that AI?
What are you saying?
That's Sora?
What are you saying?
I didn't say anything. With Sketchy Times, I mean the same company, that company Palantir that was doing all that crazy stuff in Gaza, in Gaza, and they were like, you know, running all the drones and stuff like this.
Okay, so you mean like facial recognition data?
Right.
Do they have that capability with drones, where they could just zoom around? Listen.
Okay. So
you're right. However, China's making drones.
Theo Von has officially wandered off the reservation, and Joe Rogan is not loving it. This latest episode of the JRE didn't feel like a conversation between two comedians. It felt like Theo was trying to talk about the powers that be, while Joe was desperately trying to keep everything inside Peter Thiel's Spotify approved category. And honestly, if there's one thing this interview reminded us, it's that Joe Rogan is fully compromised. For years, fans have watched the shift happen. He used to be the guy who would question everything, but now Joe's as mainstream as CNN. This isn't Joe playing dumb so he can keep huffing smelling salts and doing his stool routine at the comedy mothership. This is Joe protecting the narrative. Anytime someone brings up Peter Thiel, Joe immediately jumps to defend him and pivots to blaming Russia or China. Epstein, Joe won't touch it anymore. Instead, he throws out the safest, most sanitized talking points imaginable. Meanwhile, Theo's out here pouring out his heart.
Like now there's a lot of like billionaire files that our government protects and stuff, but back then...
You really think so?
I don't know.
I don't know either. That's what makes me nervous. I don't know.
I mean, they just had that thing that came out about the Trump Epstein thing the other day. That whole thing's just a kickball at this point, I feel like.
Bro, have you ever seen that video of me and Tim Dillon?
That's basically how this entire podcast goes. Every time Theo wanders into anything even remotely controversial, Joe immediately changes the subject, or he pushes back with a safe narrative. But that's the funniest part. Half the stuff Theo is bringing up is common knowledge. These aren't fringe theories anymore. They're just inconvenient truths. And yet Joe reacts like he's auditioning to be the official spokesperson for the new show. Joe Rogan questions nothing. You can literally see it on Theo's face the moment he realizes what kind of episode this is going to be. He just gives a little defeated smirk. While they're talking politics, Joe brings up JFK, and I think because Joe shut down Theo once already, Theo just goes completely off the reservation.
A lot of these Nancy Pelosi type people, they've been around since this. There's photos of Nancy Pelosi with JFK. Think of that. That was before we didn't go to the moon.
Yeah.
It was 1963.
That was before Israel didn't kill him.
You think so?
I didn't say anything.
I heard you say Israel killed him.
You did?
That's what I heard. Maybe
Jamie, did you put something in this?
They didn't. The glasses. They didn't do it. Oh, before Israel didn't do it. Oh, I see what you did. I think.
I didn't say anything.
I think Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone.
Theo slowly realizing Joe is a part of the group he's trying to talk about. Joe redirecting the convo each time Theo mentions Brazil. I always feel like Joe is trying to enlighten Theo, and Theo is just trolling him. I think that's exactly what's going on here. Joe clearly believes he's the smarter one in the room. So he tries to guide the conversation into these sponsor-safe waters anytime Theo starts drifting into the deep end. But that just exposes how compromised Joe has become. And it's not subtle anymore. For the last few years, the shift has been obvious. Joe used to be good at gatekeeping. He played the role of the useful idiot well, but now his opinions feel more like those little disclaimers YouTube puts at the bottom of videos that cover a controversial topic. Joe's views are the disclaimer. Whatever he immediately shuts down is probably what you should go look into. As the podcast keeps rolling, Theo casually mentions that he wants to start covering more news on his show. And the second he says that, Joe jumps in with this warning, which feels like it's directed at Trump and Vance. I think Joe and Theo both regret platforming them.
I feel lucky to get to talk to a lot of people. I don't think we do a lot of information type of stuff, and I wish we could do better with that sometimes. I think maybe that's a goal of mine next year, is to try to learn more stuff just in the day-to-day so I can have conversations that are maybe more important. But then also, maybe that's not what I'm supposed to do, and I'm just supposed to be just having conversations that are fun. And so,
well, it's what you're supposed to do if that's what you want to do. What I think is the only important thing
is what you want to do.
Yeah. To be genuinely curious about whatever you're talking about.
I agree.
And then hopefully be talking to someone who's telling the truth. That's where it gets weird. Now, sometimes people will be charismatic and they'll be very persuasive, but it turns out they have an agenda and they're not telling the truth. And you might not know that. That becomes a problem.
Yeah, I realize that. Some people are taking advantage of the fact that that they'll come on, and I sometimes have been a little bit naive to think that somebody would do that, but people do that.
Oh, 100%. Like heads of state, like if you're going to have someone who's the president of a country that's in the middle of a war and they want to come on your podcast and talk, you're not going to get anything objective. You're going to get them selling that they're the good guys.
It's honestly hilarious and kind of sad, watching both Joe and Theo dance around the truth. You can tell they both feel like they were duped, but they refuse to say by who. They'll tiptoe right up to the edge, allude to the regret, hint at the embarrassment, but they won't actually say the words Trump or Vance. Meanwhile, Theo is trying to have a real moment. He's trying to pour his heart out and talk about things we all know are eating at him, but every time he gets close, Joe cuts him off with an unrelated story. It's crazy because Joe used to be good at controlling conversations. Now it's just embarrassing.
I just feel it's like, when does it end? Like, when is it like...
It ends when they stop making money. As long as they can figure out a way to trick you into thinking that you need something, or you're not going to make any money. Did you know that tetanus? Well, you were talking about tetanus. Did you know tetanus is a bacteria?
It's tough to know who to trust. It's just tough to know where to trust things. So I think you just have to.
But there's a fact that we have had bioweapons research, and so has Russia.
I don't know. I feel
the problem is, I would say that too if I was in the middle of gain-of-function research. I'd say this stuff is nothing. Don't worry about this. What I'd really worry about is chicken pox from chickens.
Yeah. Is that the big thing now?
I don't know.
Well, dude, in our... I just don't even know. It's like, I don't know if they'd want to wipe us all out, though, because then there's nobody for these, like, dark lords to play with, I feel like.
I don't think they want to wipe us all out, but I think they want to keep us as controlled as possible, as scared as possible. You see what they did in Canada? They just shot 300 ostriches for no reason.
I wish Joe would let Theo talk more and stop interrupting him. Joe definitely got the call recently. Joe got visited at night because boy, he sure steers away from certain stuff now. And the more Joe keeps dodging certain topics and doing a terrible job at controlling the narrative, the more rogue Theo goes. A perfect example is when Joe tries to pivot the conversation by asking Theo about performing in the Middle East. Theo talks about how great it was, but then he says he was afraid for his life. But based on everything he had been saying earlier, it becomes obvious he wasn't too concerned about the people of Qatar. And Joe, of course, changes the subject immediately.
They're going to Qatar this
I was going to
weekend.
go.
Were you really?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's a long-ass flight, son.
I know. I went over there.
They're going to make you put on the outfit?
I put on the outfit already once.
Did you like it?
Yeah.
Were you thinking maybe I could live here if I get in trouble?
I thought they were going to take my life and not let me come back. To be honest. Not them, but you just never know in the Middle East what's going on,
Yeah. What does that outfit mean?
And while they're still on the subject of the Middle East, Joe finally cracks and mentions Trump by name. But even then, the only thing Joe will allow himself to say is, yeah, it's crazy what plans Trump has for Gaza. And then he just laughs. Not because it's funny, but because he has no idea how to talk about it without stepping on a landmine. Meanwhile, Theo is sitting there looking genuinely concerned, like he's the only sane person in the room.
Trump said the wildest shit of all time, that we're going to take over and we're going to turn it into what did he say? The Mediterranean of the Middle East? Like, what the fuck are you saying? That was one of those things that made people go, wait, is he really crazy?
Right, what's going on?
How are we going to take over? How are you going to take it? It's like when he was talking about Greenland, like maybe we're going to take Greenland. Like, hey, what? Why do they want Greenland?
Well,
Let's ask Perplexity.
Joe and Theo end up becoming these perfect opposite examples of how people deal with grief. Joe's version of processing anything heavy is to crack a joke, force a laugh, and pretend it's not actually happening. Theo, on the other hand, looks genuinely disturbed. He's sitting there absorbing what's being said, taking it personally, and you can see the weight of it hitting him in real time. He's not laughing because he thinks it's funny. He's laughing because he has no other way to survive the conversation. And I think both of them are bummed that they bought into this idea that this election was the most important one ever, and that this one would change everything. But now, watching everything play out, especially with the Epstein files, they realize it's all a joke and that they were duped into being part of it. But no matter how many jokes Joe cracks or how many times he tries to steer the ship into calmer water, Theo is there to touch on every topic that comes with a Wikipedia disclaimer. It's honestly the funniest part of the episode, the tension between a guy who's waking up and a guy who's doing everything he can to keep the people asleep.
Antarctica, because Antarctica's all white, so they go out there and they see things on the ground that are meteors.
Is it true they won't let us up there, or is that true that's a myth?
No, there's places where you're not supposed to fly, but there's a bunch of reasons for that. One of them, I'm sure they're probably doing military research up there, but also, so they have restricted airspace, but also it's really dangerous. And if you crash, they won't have to rescue you. Like, there's nothing up there. Like, you will die, you know, most likely. And they don't want to have to try to die going to get you. It's sketchy going up there.
They don't care about humans' well-being. They let people climb Everest, and if they don't make it, they stay up there. I have no idea why we can't go up there either, but if someone were to ask me, I wouldn't spout off every state-sponsored safe answer there was. As the conversation goes on, Theo keeps trying to pour his heart out the way he does on his podcast. But Joe just keeps hijacking the moment with genius takes, like humanity is on its way out. Which leads to Joe defending Peter Thiel, insisting he isn't an evil man.
Life is an interesting experience. Yeah. It really, truly is. You know, but it can be awesome and it can suck. And the reason why it's awesome is because it can suck. Like, you need them all.
Yeah.
While we're human. And I think we have only so much sand left in that hourglass. Where the humans are on the way out. I know a lot of people hate it when Peter Thiel says it. Like, Peter Thiel is a terrible person. He's evil.
Do you think he is?
No. I think he's just telling you the truth. I think he's, you know, when they said, do you think human beings should survive? And he had like this long pause.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
And then the interviewer was like, the answer is yes. The answer is yes. You think human beings should, which is not how you're supposed to do an interview. Well, at least not how I do it.
I love that Joe, what am I supposed to do, push back Rogan, is actually giving a critique on someone's interviewing skills. Rogan, a man whose platform has become a megaphone for propaganda, suddenly acting like he's the arbiter of proper interviewing technique. Meanwhile, Theo is trying to talk about real-life issues, the things people actually care about. And Joe, in his infinite wisdom, goes full abstract philosopher mode. Life has to suck to be good, and it can be good because it sucks. Then somehow he manages to slip in his ultimate take. Humans are on their way out. And not only that, the guy actively contributing to that trajectory, not a terrible person. You can tell Theo is getting tired of it, so he just starts trolling Joe.
Yeah, how much longer does Israel let us stay alive, do you think? That's the big question.
Why would they?
What did you say? Is that AI?
What are you saying?
That's Sora?
What are you saying?
I didn't say anything.
What are you saying?
Huh? Talking about Israel Adesanya.
Oh, well, he loves you. Don't worry about it.
Good call.
What are you saying, son?
Yeah,
so
what
did he say? What did he say about the Epstein files?
What did he say?
What's hilarious is that Theo gives up and goes on a mission to expose Rogan, and Joe's vibe is like, come on, man, that Spotify money is nice. What are you trying to do to me here? As the podcast goes on, Theo addresses the clip of him the government used in an ICE ad, which coincidentally happened around the same time as Charlie Kirk, so Theo took it as a veiled threat. He tries to get into it multiple times, but every single time, Joe shuts it down and changes the topic.
You were just joking around because you were talking to a guy who's his friend. And this was quite a while ago, too, right? When was that video?
Yeah, I don't know. It could have been like a year and a half ago or something. I don't remember. But that was crazy.
But it was like, it was a joke, right?
She's like a friend. I don't know if she said a friend of mine got deported. I can't remember what she said. But she's like, what? Do you have anything to say to him, right? And I was like, bye. You know?
Yeah.
I'm clowning around. I have no idea if it's real or not. I have no idea.
You have no idea. It's literally someone just handed you a phone, and then Homeland Security, was that what it was?
Yeah, just put it up online. And it was
it
after the
Homeland
Charlie
Security?
Kirk thing. Yeah. And so then I was like super scared, you remember?
Yeah.
Remember, I was texting like you. I was just texting people to make sure everybody's okay. I didn't know if they were like just going to kill people that had been on TikTok or whatever. Like, I had no idea what they were going to do.
I just can't believe they did that with you, where they just put it in there as if like you were endorsing that.
Well, it just kind of, and it was just a scary time. That was the same time as
who
after the Charlie Kirk thing.
That? Who greenlit that?
Probably just some fucking trap beat,
but you know what I'm
artist
saying?
Or whatever.
Like if a company did that, you could sue them. You know what I'm saying? Like if it was privatized.
Theo was genuinely scared after Charlie Kirk. He clearly suspects the same entities responsible for that might not be thrilled with some of the things he said on his podcast. He was so concerned he didn't even feel safe at the doctor's office. But every time he tries to actually address it, Joe changes the subject. It's frustrating to watch. Theo wants to have an honest discussion,
how are you?
and Joe keeps steering the dialogue.
But yeah, that was.
Hey, what's up, Blender? How you doing? I was about to stream Naraka Blade Point. Yeah, I'm supposed to stay up late, but I don't know how late I can stay. How you doing, Blender?
I am good, man. What's this interview about?
Joe Rogan covering for Peter Thiel. Because Peter Thiel owns Spotify. He has a contract with Spotify for $100 million. So the narrator is exposing Joe Rogan as an insincere shill. Somebody that's been, sold out, basically. And he provides pretty compelling evidence, And Peter Thiel, he's, behind Palantir, massive surveillance, doesn't respect anybody's privacy except his own. Not necessarily a good guy, but Joe Rogan defends him,
That's nice.
Dude, I got this thing, dude, and I love it. It's so strong, bro.
Looks like you have a power law.
It's a gyro ball. It has a gyro inside, and you sort of spin it.
It looks cool.
And it's so hard to control. It's to exercise your hand muscles. It wants to fly off my hand. Yeah, I just got it today. I gotta do both hands. What have you been playing, Blender? What's going on? What are you working on?
I am playing CS2 and some Rainbow Six Siege currently, just chilling.
Man, how old is Counter-Strike 2? I mean, talk about a game that has staying power, huh? And it's still influential. It's still influential in the industry.
CS2 is like 2 years old or almost 3. It was made in 2023.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. How old is Counter-Strike 1?
I don't really know. Let me search it up real quick.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have searched it up myself instead of making you do the extra work.
It was made in 2012, August 21st.
Damn. 10 years, huh? That's a good run. I heard there were a lot of cheats.
I'm talking about CSGO itself. There's an even older version that's called 1.6.
Damn. What do you think about the crises that aiming games, particularly first-person shooters, but not just first-person shooters, because Fortnite is third-person, and Fortnite has the same problems. There's all these sophisticated aimbot software that it's not software in your box. It's basically a bridge between your controller and the PC. And I'm not talking about wall hacks. I'm talking about just aimbot, very simple aimbot. I've been seeing some videos about it. And I don't know how FPS can continue competitively,
It's for controllers only. They think it's unfair if controllers go against mouse and keyboard.
Yeah, but do you really think that mouse and keyboard players are not going to do anything? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I know it's an issue for consoles, but do you think that some sweat is not gonna, try to use something extra for mouse and keyboard?
I myself have played controller against mouse and keyboard players, and it's not that hard, TBH.
Well, that's why I like the gyroscope, the motion controls. Ever since I programmed my own motion controls, and I aim with motion controls, I didn't want to go back to mouse and keyboard. It's just controller's much more comfortable, and I don't need to mid-max. I don't need to.
Also, the amount cheaters on console is insane. They use Cronus Zens and strike packs and stuff.
Yep. Yeah, but PC has to have their own, PC has to have their own plague of cheating as well. I mean, I just don't know how the whole genre is gonna survive competitively, I mean, they could do they could do something for PvE or PvP, but not take it seriously. But even then, sweats like PvP, and they like, actually, these are not just sweats. These are just cheaters. You know, they like using cheats because it makes them feel good. You know, it makes them feel like, you know, it's like a superiority thing. You know, killing somebody with cheats feels good. You know, it's like, oh, I did something I wasn't supposed to, and I had a lot of fun. I just don't know how how the whole genre is gonna survive, man. You know.
Then the cheater dies by an actual good player's, then he proceeds to leak this poor player.
Well, not all the cheaters are bad. Not all the cheaters are, you know, lacking skill. I've seen some videos about that, you know. But I just think that aiming is a very simple mechanic. And because it's a very simple mechanic, it will be very easy to implement. As opposed to, say, like a fighting game. You have a fighting game, you know, it's like, okay, well, you know, you got to react at certain times, and then there's the frame data and all this stuff. With aiming is basically, you know, find target and shoot. You know, I suppose that there can be some difficulty with tracking if the target is moving. You gotta estimate how far they're moving. You know, angle, velocity, all that stuff. But I still think that that's easier to calculate than something like a fighting game. You know, something that has a little bit more melee combat. You know, so I don't know. It makes me wonder sometimes. Makes me wonder how they're going to fix this, because now all the hacking devices are going outside the box. You know, like the latest and greatest cheating devices and aimbot. They're not software anymore. They're hardware. Sorry, I'm waiting for a friend of mine. That's why I needed to stay up, but it's just taking a little longer.
Those that connect to the PCIe slots.
I'm not sure how they're connecting. I know that it's a device that uses its own computer, and you plug the game computer into the device that simulates a controller, or, you know, it could be mouse and keyboard, and then you have your actual mouse and keyboard. Like I saw in a video about streamers, like this Call of Duty streamers, almost everybody was cheating. You know, was using all these cheats because getting kills is popular, but getting kills is hard, and nobody wants to watch you fail over and over again, unless it's to laugh at you. So almost everybody was using these, you know, these hardware cheating device. And they run independent too. My whole point is, how is that going to affect the genre as a game, as a competitive game? You know, it pretty much will kill it. I mean, I'm sure that some people will play and
It's
don't
sad
care.
to know that Call of Duty isn't doing anything about it.
Yeah. You know why? I think that they're too comfortable. They're too comfortable and too successful. They have too many players that will buy any Call of Duty. You could release a Call of Duty called Call of Duty Shed on a Stick, and people will still buy it. You know. That's the problem when companies get too big.
It was a miracle that people still bought Bo 7.
Yeah. It's like think about a toxic relationship. Okay? You had like a toxic girlfriend or something. And they get toxic and they get fresh and disrespectful because they know that you're not going to leave them because you like them so much. See what I'm saying? And that's a real life example of what's happening. The corporations get big, the customers get really loyal, and then the suits running the corporation, they start abusing that relationship. You know, it's really sad.
Call of Duty is like the Apple of games. They know that people will buy their product whatsoever.
Yeah. And I like Nintendo. I think Nintendo is the Apple of games, more so than Call of Duty. Ever since their president, the last president of Nintendo, died, it's just been taken over by douchebags and suits, unfortunately.
It's because the president that died was actually a gamer.
He was a gamer. And a lot of these gaming companies are not run by gamers, they're run by suits. Playing video games is not part of their hobby. The guy running Rockstar for GTA 6 doesn't play video games, not interested in playing video games at all. You know, he's not a gamer. He doesn't give two shits. You know, and they don't get it. You know, they can't identify with their customer base. I don't even know how he's CEO. Anyway, it looks like my friend is not going to come over anytime soon. Like 3 in the morning already. So hopefully it's just a no big deal. It's no big deal delay. And I'll see him tomorrow for Thanksgiving. I'm supposed to be here already for Thanksgiving. I can't even say tomorrow because technically it's today. In my side of the world, it's 3 in the morning. Let's see. Yep, Thursday.
I was surprised that you were still streaming. I just woke up like 1 hour ago.
Oh, yeah? Good morning. Yeah, I just been, I'm like, you know, I'm just gonna, since I'm gonna eat and like watch some YouTube, might as well stream it and see if I can have some interesting conversations with people. So I'm glad you stumble up and we had this little chat about those hardware cheating devices and how it's going to affect the industry. That was really refreshing. Thing is, my friends, family, co-workers, they don't care about video games. I can't have conversations like this that I just have with you with them. Can't, because they just don't know, don't care. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream. Gonna go to sleep. It's too bad my friend's not here. I've been waiting all night, man. So, all right, Blender, you take care of yourself, okay?
Dang.
Yeah. It's probably some Murphy's Law bullshit, some fucking delay bullshit. You know what I mean?
See you, man.
Yep. Hey, don't forget to take care of your business, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.